Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie, and I have back on the show is Kenneth Gottfried. We're going to talk about his book, Victim, how the American Psychological Association kills parents, abuses children, and grows their base. What happens when the leading organization for psychology ignores child abuse more horrific than sexual and physical abuses combined? The APA has made a deal with the devil a long time ago. They knowingly and intentionally abuse children, encourage domestic violence, kill parents, and commit ethics violations right and left routinely on a daily basis. If you are a member of the APA or a therapist, you are ethically obligated to get this book and actually read it. And I welcome you, Kenneth Gottfried, back to the show. How are you today?
I am wonderful. Thank you for that glowing introduction. I appreciate it.
Well, you deserve it. I mean,
Thank you.
how long did it take you to write that book?
Oh, geez. It honestly, it took the culmination of me going through everything, having to learn all about psychology, talking to different psychologists, clinical psychologists, literally talking with the two presidents of the American Psychology, or American APA, the American Psychological Association. It took me calls and calls into their association to get answers. And what I came to find out was that the American Psychological Association are a bunch of child abusers and murderers.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't say that lightly. And you know what? They backed me with a letter they wrote to the president in 2018, June 14th. Because I'm not saying, it's not that I say that, but they said that. They talked about the separation of parents and children at the border, how it causes suicide, how it causes trauma in kids, how we have all this empirical data. You got to stop separating kids at the border. And so they said this. And when I wrote them a letter and wrote Dr. Daniel, who was the president at that time, said, listen, you just said this. This is what's going on in family court. Why aren't you speaking up about this? We're talking about 2,000 people at the border, and we're talking about 1 million people a year in family court. And her answer was, I just got back from overseas. I'll read your letter and answer it this week. 2 weeks later, hey, Dr. Daniel, I didn't receive an answer. Meanwhile, I have hundreds and thousands of people sending emails to Dr. Daniel and the APA. We'd like a copy of this. We'd like to hear what you have to say. She basically pushed it off until she was no longer the president. Dr. Daniel, the ex-president, is a murderer and a child abuser. She's an accomplice to it. I do not have, and there's nothing they can say because they know it. They put it in their letter. They put it to President Trump. They said, this happens. And they are, I don't comprehend what their issue is other than the fact that they are intentionally doing this, and they are intentionally traumatizing kids for life, and they know it.
Well, when a parent, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. You let me do my, I love your podcast because you let me go on my diatribe. So go ahead.
No, that's fine. I was going to ask you, what do you think a parent, well, sometimes this is hard because sometimes a judge will order psychology for the kids or the family counseling for the family, and they pick the counselor. I mean, I think parents should go about picking their own counselor and asking if they know anything about,
that's one of the hardest things. And you can ask, Bill Burnett, Amy Baker, Craig Childress, any of the specialists in this field, and they will tell you one same thing. They were all on board with this. Most counselors, psychologists, forensic psychologists, clinical psychologists don't have a grasp of this child abuse. They don't understand psychological child abuse. They have no correlation to they have no correlation to family structures or no correlation to attachment disorders, and they absolutely don't know what a shared persecutory delusion is. They have no idea what the five-factor thing about discovering what parental alienation is, and they all, oh, we didn't, and they have no problem distorting the truth. So you have to have that. You have to demand that you have a specialist in this.
Mhm.
And you have to have a specialist who honestly knows all things. I will never say, hey, if a judge says we had an emergency separation because of a possible endangerment of the child, I will never say, okay, that's wrong. I will never say that's wrong, because if there's an imminent danger, that's one thing. If they're doing stuff without due process, or if a judge is doing things and ordering that without due process and trying to get an uneducated, unspecialized counselor, clinical psychologist, that they're all they're doing is they're trying to fit their narrative so they can do whatever they want to do, and
Mhm.
that usually involves harming the child and harming the parent or a parent. That's it.
Mhm. Mhm. The target parent sometimes doesn't have a choice, and what also happens, I think we talked before, is that the other parent will take the kids to see the psychologist on their days that they have the kids and not inform the other parent that
Yeah,
they're there.
yeah, it's scary. It's scary. That's what happened in my case. The counselor was later, a year later, found guilty of ethics violations, because when she testified in court, not knowing who I was, and testified against me without ever meeting me, the Counselor Association in North Carolina, they had to file ethics charges, and they actually made her stop seeing my kids. But the damage from a year and a half of my children going to her is not going to be undone. And
Mhm.
so at what point is this a level playing field? Was that judge guilty of child abuse? Absolutely, because he knew that this was going on.
Mhm.
But anyhow, that would be that goes into my other books. And I'm trying to stick with the APA and how they handle this, and how they have deviated so far away from actual family structures, psychological child abuse, and how they just don't care. And they've actively fought people against this. I mean, God,
Mhm.
I have spoke to so many people who have called the APA, who've written the APA, who petitioned the APA, and the APA has told them again and again and again, go away. You don't know what you're talking about, and and putting a secondary injury into them. You know what a secondary injury is,
Well,
Marianne?
you've been injured emotionally before by, say, family court, and then you're getting a slap in the face from the APA with this letter.
Basically, it's being re-traumatized, because
Re-traumatized.
you're being re-traumatized, because literally, that the sky, that your child is being abused, and you could see it in their eyes, and you could see it in what they're doing, and the court is saying, forget it. No, we're listening to this forensic, this the clinical, this counselor. We're going to listen to them and not you.
Mhm.
Okay. And most of them, they're friends of the court, so they already paid off to go in a certain direction, and so they could care less. I have spoke to parent after parent after parent that has literally not spoken to this therapist or this counselor, but they've already condemned that parent for who
Mhm.
they are, because they're getting paid
Mhm.
15,000, 35,000, in some cases 75 and 100,000, and they're not even really investigating these kids.
Mhm.
and they have no idea about anything that's going on. They're just trying to please the court and make more money.
Mm-hmm. And what is odd is when these other parents bring the kids, and you would think the psychologist would say, wait a minute, the mother or the father is supposed to be here. Let's make a phone call. And they just don't even put it together.
No, that's the game. That's the game, because the game is not fairness. The game is not honesty, and the game is definitely not the best interest of the child. It is literally to screw over the child and screw over that other parent. That's I didn't write my books because, oh, I think willy-nilly this may happen, this sort of. I know this stuff is happening. I didn't write killing judges because I think, oh, that's a cool title. I know that people are going to start seeing this for what it is. It is child abuse, it is domestic violence, and it is ordered by so many judges across the globe, not just in the US, but across the globe, that people are going to be like, I am no longer tolerating this. I am going to use my Second Amendment right, and I am going to protect my children who are in imminent danger right now, which has been ordered by a child abusing judge.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying go out and do that,
Mm-hmm.
but what I'm saying is that they are pushing these parents who are being destabilized because of the emotional abuse and domestic violence that these judges are actually ordering. That some of these people are just going to be like, I'm not going to take this anymore. You know what? Let's go out and use my Second Amendment right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the scary thing. They're going to get what's coming to them because they've decided a long time ago that we don't care about psychological abuse, and we're going to separate kids and parents willy-nilly and ruin people's family structures. That's
Right.
what it comes down to. So when you go back to these therapists and counselors and whatever who don't understand family structure, have never gone into looking how to differentiate what is the difference between, now I'm going to get into some topics, but what is the difference between physical abuse, sexual abuse, or psychological abuse?
Mm-hmm.
And so for that therapist, they shouldn't be in any of this stuff if they don't know how to differentiate all three of these.
Yeah, they don't. I think they just focus on either emotional, physical, maybe, if
No,
that's
no,
what their specialty is.
no. Many of them don't look at emotional.
No.
Many of them look at, many of them look at just physical and just sexual. That's literally it. They look at sometimes neglect, the kid's not getting fed, a kid's, stuff like that. But they will not look at, they don't have any plans of action. How can I tell what the difference is in any of these three? Because every one of these has fingerprints, and DSS they have a program. This is the program to find out if this kid's emotionally or sexually abused. This is the program to find out if physically abused. And there's no program for psychologically abused. There's nothing. And it's not that there's nothing, but they haven't looked or asked any of the experts who are specialized in this.
Mm-hmm. And I think some of these psychologists are emotionally abusing the target parent.
Oh, they totally are. And the bottom line is, so many of them, they just care where the money's coming from, because they're going to go whichever way and however the direction. Oh, I'm getting 35,000 here, or 20,000 here, or 5,000 here. You know what? That other parent, oh yeah, they're totally, they should be targeted because they're not giving me a ton of money. They don't, and so it's so unfair across the board that they're not using specialized experts in this field, because there needs to be specialized experts in this field. Like Stephen Miller says, and he has a great video online, that almost every single therapist gets this wrong. And that goes across the board. For clinical psychologists, forensic, everybody, almost everybody gets this wrong.
Mm-hmm. I think I told you what happened in my case with the child psychologist and the necklace.
Remind me, I can't remember.
Okay, we had a win in court for once. Not that it meant anything, but my friend and I went to TJ Maxx, and she found a necklace that said, "I love you more." And it was in sterling silver. And it's like, wow, and she says, you say that to your kids all the time. But I've heard other parents say, even fathers say that to their kids. Oh, I love you more. It's not like a big thing. I mean,
it's a game. It's a fun thing that we all do.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so then
hold on. Yes, my youngest daughter, Ellie, I love you more. No, I love you more. She wrote me a letter that described how she loved me more, and my ex threw it away. She terrible. My ex did everything to destroy my relationship with my daughters. You're not supposed to say that or be, but that's exactly what happened. But go ahead.
I'm so sorry.
You got the necklace.
Yeah, so I got it, and there was a meeting at the psychologist where I could give the kids their Easter baskets. And my parents wanted to see the kids as well, so they were there. I wore the necklace and gave them their Easter baskets, no big deal. Then we go into court, and this psychologist, I swear, it's like her voice is like nails on a chalkboard. And she kind of talks like this. And so she says on the stand, she was wearing this necklace that said, "I love you more." And I think that demonizes the father. And that's when I heard my mother gasp, like, really? I mean, don't you have a brain?
I know, but honestly, we all wish we had 20/20 hindsight. Because at that point, you should have just said, "Objection, Your Honor. Mm-hmm. I would like to file child abuse charges against this therapist. Mm-hmm. I would like to stop right now and file child abuse charges against this therapist, because almost every parent and every child and one of their children has 'I love you more,' 'No, I love you more,' back and forth. We all do this. Has nothing to do with the other parent, has to do with just a jovial, loving thing. And so if this counselor does not understand that, I need to press charges against her for child abuse. Mm-hmm. And that you have to, and this is one of the things that is in my third book, Child Abusers Wear Black Robes, mm-hmm. because I have letters in there. I have 11 letters in there. You can go online and pull the letters down and be like, listen, I need to file child abuse charges. Not only file criminal child abuse charges against that person, but also file ethics violations for wherever they're appointed, wherever they're at, whether it's with the APA, whether it's with the State Board of Licensed Counselors. You find out what that counselor is associated with, what are her credentials, what are his credentials, and you file charges against them in criminal charges. It's important that you also get a copy of that court recording. You should be able to get a copy of that court recording, listen to it, put in that, get a couple copies and send that with your complaints, because you can say you need to listen at 12 minutes to 15 minutes. That's when they're on the stand. That's when they said their stuff. That's when they were seeing my children without my permission. Mm-hmm. I had joint legal custody. I was not even aware of this. They need to have ethics violations. And if you think that doesn't work, I have on my website, child abusivejudges.com. On the very bottom, there was a child abuser who saw my children, Lyric Fitzgibbons. She is a child abuser, and she did EMDR with my kids, implanted false memories, and her ethics violations from the North Carolina Department of Licensed Therapists and Counselors is on that page. So it can be done and it should be done, but when you put in that complaint, you better have a copy of the recordings. You better have a copy of the recordings. If you go up to them and speak to them, you should always have a copy of recordings whenever you deal directly with them. So if they say something that's inappropriate, or they're doing something that's inappropriate, like if you have joint custody and they're not telling you that they're seeing your kid, you file charges immediately to get that person removed and stop doing it, and you bring it up in court, and then you file criminal charges, because no one is supposed to be able to either operate or do anything or do psychological treatments if you are not involved and you have a joint legal custody.
Oh, that is excellent advice. I wish I would have known this back 6 years ago.
I don't know how far you can go back, but if you can still make complaints. I don't know, if it's a year back, if it's 2 years back, I think filing against the therapist, it's 7 years for child abuse, and you should file child abuse. I had joint custody. Here's their testimony. You better hope that they still have a copy of that testimony, and so you have that. This is it's so important. And just to let you know, I didn't tell anybody this yet, except for one friend who I was really excited, and she knew it. I totally took me off. Okay. Yeah, I spoke to the FBI for an hour the other day.
Wow. Tell us more.
Absolutely, because you keep bringing this up. You go up the chain of command, and you go up to the sheriff, and you file charges. And if the sheriff doesn't do anything, you go up to the Judicial Standards Commission in every state, and you file charges against the judges, and you file criminal charges for child abuse against the judges. You make so many waves that they're going to be like, I don't want to do this. You stand out in front of the courthouse and you call them child abusers. This judge is abusing my child. Now, that's going to put you behind the 8 ball with all the brethren in black robes. But let's put it to you this way. If your child is being sexually abused by a judge, would you just stand there? 2014, a press release from the American Psychological Association stated that psychological abuse is as bad, if not worse, than sexual or physical abuse. You can't stand there and not do anything. Your child is in imminent danger. They're in imminent danger every day, and they could be, this is horrible what a judge puts any targeted parent through. This is horrible what a judge puts any child who is dealing with parental alienation or a shared persecutory delusion, putting it through. It is horrible, and that judge should be held accountable. That's what this is all about. They should be held accountable. So yeah, I was on the phone for over an hour with the FBI.
I'm surprised
I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm surprised they listened.
Oh, she, yeah. You got to realize, in my case, I would love to say that my case, it's the worst of the worst, but it's horrible, but it's like everybody else's case, because these people are so corrupt and they follow a pattern. And so, the moment I said to the FBI person, I was like, yeah, the judge called my old attorney to the stand to testify against me in an hour and a half.
Hmm.
She goes, what? I was like, the judge called my old, and she was like, oh. And then when I said something about him refusing due process, she was like, oh. And it wasn't those O's, I'm not going to do anything. It was like, oh. And you could tell in her voice that she actually gave a shit. And this took letters and phone calls and letters and phone calls and emails and phone calls, and I'm just pissing people off, knowing that I'm not going to let this go. I'm not going to let him not call me back.
Mhm.
And so they finally gave me a call. This was like, a month of a serious campaign, 2 months of a serious campaign. And the funny thing is every time she called me up, or every time she asked, well, did did you contact the attorney general? And I was like, go up to the top of my page and go to Josh Stein, the attorney general in North Carolina. Click on that. That's a letter I wrote him in 2017. And he put his guard dog, which you wouldn't know that he has you would know that he has an attorney. So the attorney general has an attorney, Hugh Harris, and all he did was placate me. We can't do anything. We don't want to do. Yeah, you can do stuff. This is child trafficking, child abuse, and domestic violence ordered by a judge. You know what you can do? You can order the FBI to investigate and stop this shit.
Mhm.
But what they did is, oh, let's just placate him and pretend he doesn't exist. Let's just make him feel at ease. No, you can't feel at ease when your kid's getting abused. You can't feel at ease when you've been deprived of your civil liberties and civil rights. You can't. And so for that, then he was like, well, did you contact the sheriff? Yes, click on the sheriff, Sheriff Len Hageman, the stupid child abusing piece of crap that protects child abusers. Yeah. And so like, well, do you have any records? I was like, click on this. It's all my emails back and forth with him, that him telling me over 4 times, oh, child abuse, that's a civil matter. It's not criminal. Excuse me? Child abuse is a civil matter. It's not criminal. You want me to go back into the civil court who abused me to begin with to try and file criminal charges? You're crazy. So it was really nice that I could vent that out, that I could get that out, and that there's actually somebody listening. So at least now I know that the FBI has has some of the records, and she's going to be reading this and investigating it. And I'm excited about that, because there's no way in hell she can come back, well, there's nothing. No, if she comes back with, oh, there's nothing, the FBI literally is telling you I'm not saying I'm not going to do anything, and we don't care about your civil liberties and civil rights. I don't believe that. And, I know some of them are like that, but I can't believe that all of them are like that. If they know that your civil liberties are trashed, they have to do something.
Mhm.
Sorry, there you go.
No,
But
that was excellent.
oh, it's you have to be the squeaky wheel. You have to do things that they don't want to do. You have to go and hold up that Judge Warren F. Hughes abused my daughters. And when the next judge, this is where I failed, that the next judge, when he says, I'm going to give you what do you call it? If you do this again, I'm going to put you in jail, give you a gag order so you can't do it, which is an illegal gag order. The very next day, you should have another sign up that says Judge Hal Harrison is the same child abuser, is protecting child abusers, is a son of a bitch, and that should be on a sign across from the courthouse along with the other ones. You should call these bastards out for who they are. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I agree. That was excellent. No, no, you're fine. Because it's like, they just totally trample on you, because even when I tried to run a secondary um, family court, because the kids just wanted to go back to 50-50. So I said, fine. But that other judge quashed it because I didn't pay the opposing attorney $1,500 for his appearance at the conciliatory conference. that he walked out of. Like he's what, a movie star? He needs an appearance fee.
What?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. You should see him. He's
Okay,
got those.
so hold on. So hold on. I just want to make sure I got this clear. You did not get 50-50 because of a debt to an attorney
Mhm.
that fucking judge had no. What's he saying? I'm gonna order domestic violence because you owe out a debt on your car, because you actually owe, $500 in parking fees. I'm gonna order domestic violence so you can't see your kid. Are you
Well,
saying that's what happened?
well. See, the other judge died, and then this other one took over. And
Sorry, hold on. And I know, woo, death of another
woo!
child abuse, death of another child abuser. That's the way I
Right,
look at that.
right. Oh, totally, exactly. And he won't abuse any more parents anymore either. And the thing is, this judge was carrying out the order of the dead judge. But the thing is, I never got a bill from this attorney saying, I want my $1,500. I
Mm-hmm.
was pro se. I was representing myself. It's like, there's no bill. But despite that, the judge just said, well, I'm not going to entertain this. And he just picked up and walked off the bench. And as he did that, I stood up and said, Your Honor, my children are being neglected. What a- it's-
I hate hindsight again is what 2020.
Mhm.
Excuse me, Sheriff, I would like to file child abuse charges against this judge. This judge is ordering child abuse and ordering domestic violence. I would like to file this right now. No, you go walk away. I'm going to have you arrested by the time you hit that fucking door.
Mhm. Mhm.
You have to stand up in the middle of court and file child abuse charges. And excuse me, clerk of court, I want copies of this, that judge is walking away, that he's walking away and ordering child abuse and ordering domestic violence. Here are my documentation for all this. I want him arrested now.
Mhm.
You are under civil, what was it, civil arrest, or was it when you are under citizen's arrest? You
Right.
are under citizen's arrest right now for child abuse. You do not go anywhere.
Mhm.
You want to talk about changing the court system? If people start doing that, and you had a friend or two friends that stood up in back of you
Mhm.
and said, damn right, you move, you fucking are going to go down like any criminal who's committing child abuse.
I agree. I hope everyone listening, I hope they will take this to heart and do it. It takes a lot of guts to do that when you're especially a pro se.
No, it doesn't take any guts. And here's why. Would you stop somebody from sexually abusing your 12-year-old? It's the same damn thing.
Mhm.
You got to get this thing out of your mind that says, well, it's just kind of psychological abuse. This type of psychological abuse, this shared persecutory delusion. The
Mhm.
key word is delusion. Is that sets off delusions in your child's mind. You need to stop this immediately, because if you don't, you will wind up as a targeted parent, feared, hated, and you'll be out of your kid's life.
Mhm.
And you will be paying for it for maybe 3 years, maybe 8 years, maybe the entire life. You may end up dying before you ever see your kids again.
Mhm.
Stop it. Stop it in the courts. Make sure you have 2, 3, 6 friends there that will stand up behind you and say, no, you're under citizen's arrest. You are not allowed to leave. You are going to jail right now, because
Mhm.
a judge is not allowed to break the law, is not allowed to go and rob a bank, is not allowed to go and abuse children,
Mhm.
period.
Oh, I agree with you. I
Yep.
wish I would have known this. Yeah, like I said,
That's
6,
that's
7
what
years
my
ago.
book. That's what my books are about. My books are not like the best written, oh my God, this novel is amazing. No, my books are a lot of facts and a lot of letters from the DOJ, the Department of Justice, that says this is our definition of domestic violence: harming one's relationship with his or her children. Black and white, that's a definition, and that person, that judge, that other attorney need to be arrested for fighting for and ordering domestic violence. A shared persecutory delusion in the DSM-5 under V99 5.51. Those are in my books. You use that stuff to pull out and be like, here you go, deputy. These are what a shared persecutory delusion is, and that judge is ordering it right now. I want him arrested immediately.
What would happen if they didn't do it? What if they just don't do it?
Second Amendment. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Okay. You have to fight and fight and fight. You have to bring in everybody right there. You have to bring in, now you have to do some research with how to file charges or judicial complaints against the judge. You need to go out and be across the street and call that judge a child abuser. You need to do everything in your arsenal to protect your kids and protect yourself, because these bastards want to play judicial immunity. And if the sheriff doesn't do anything, you go to the attorney general. The attorney general doesn't do anything, you go to the SBI. The SBI doesn't do anything, and you have to petition, and you have to go out. You have to fight and fight and fight. The one thing that I don't believe in is signing petitions to give here or do whatever. When I say petition, when I say protest, I'm talking going outside, being across the street, and having signs that say that I want this judge arrested for abusing my little girls or little boys, period. You know, and the sheriff is a child abuser who is protecting this, you know, because they're not doing it. The local PD is refusing to do it, you know, and you hand out cards, you get the word out, and you stand out there and you judicial watch and you help other people, and you get the, you know, and you get this, so where they look at psychological abuse, separating kids and parents, parental alienation, a shared persecutory delusion, and they say, okay, this is as bad as sexual abuse. I can't do this as a judge. We get it to that point. And we don't let it, we don't just let it drop by the wayside, and we don't just take it internally. What do I do as a parent? And this is the hardest thing, I know, and I'm saying this to parents because right now there are so many parents who will listen to this who are like, who are destroyed inside. I mean, you had a heart attack, for God's sake. This is what it how can I say this? 100% of all people that go through this that I have spoken to are suicidal. That were never suicidal ever before. Okay, that tells you something how horrible and how bad this is to a parent and to a child. And so we have to do something, because I'm tired of seeing parents kill themselves. And so parents have to stand up. If they need anything, if they need signage, if they need printouts, if they need anything, I have them. They can order them. I'll give them to them at cost. I'll drop ship them at cost, do whatever. And so please call me, Gottfried Marketing, GOTTFRIED marketing.com. Go there, send me an email, send me any information. Hey, Ken, I want to set up a protest. I want to set up a protest right across from these pieces of shit judges. I'll help you out.
That's wonderful. There you go. That's wonderful. Now, okay, all your books are on Amazon, so people can go to find your books there. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, so you go to Amazon, look up name of the one against the American Psychological Association and calls them out is called Victim. So if you type in Victim,
and Gottfried, Gottfried. That'll be one of the first books that comes up. If you want to pick up Killing Judges, type in Killing Judges, Gottfried, Gottfried. That one will come up. And the last one is Child Abusers Wear Black Robes, which is, just type that in, Child Abusers Wear Black Robes, Gottfried, Gottfried, and that one will come up. You can also go to the author's website, and that one's coming up. And all of them will come up.
Oh, good. Okay. I will put that in the podcast notes.
That'd be great. I appreciate that. Because, I didn't write my books to be like, ooh, I wrote my books for the parents. I wrote my books for the parents to use the information in them. And I wrote my books to call out the child abusers who sit on the bench. And I wrote my books, especially Victim, how the American Psychological Association, I'm writing a letter right now and an email. And it's about how the American Psychological Association took 2 to 3 weeks to draft up a letter to Trump with empirical data and all this stuff proving the separation, about the separation at the border. But they can't do a press release about the separation in family court. Oh, we're just going to let all the kids, fend for themselves, and the parents fend for themselves. We're not going to give anybody any information about the separation there. It's just, I know I went over that once before, but it drives me nuts.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. We have enough problems here with our own court systems, pulling fit parents away from their children. And you're more concerned about these kids at the border.
Oh, yeah, totally. And that shows you where the APA, where the American Psychological Association, where their actual emphasis is, where their money comes from, how they handle themselves. They're supposed to be the number one authority on psychological issues, but yet they won't address the number one psychological issue of children today.
Yeah, they should be ashamed of themselves.
They should be arrested.
Yeah, that too. Well, I'd like to have you back on the show again.
I'd love that. This is hopefully getting out information that people really can use, really need. And here's one of the main things I stress this so much. I know when this is happening to you because I lived it, and you feel all alone. You feel like, I'm embarrassed, I'm scared, I don't know what to say, because none of my friends will understand my kids not loving me, not hugging me. I must have done something wrong. I'm just ashamed to tell anybody. Most of us have 3, 4 friends that have known us for years, that know that we love our kids, have shown it over and over again, have shown our love to other kids, and and how nice and kind we are. Go to those parents who know who you are and ask them for an affidavit or for anything to come to court and help you out. Make sure you're not alone. Make sure you're not alone in filing child abuse charges, because that's how they get you. If you are alone, they want to isolate you. The police want to isolate you and be like, you're fucking crazy. We don't want to touch anything. But if you have your grandma, your mother, your sister, your brother, your friends, whatever, if you have 3 or more people, you are now a force to be reckoned with, because now you're going to the magistrate or the sheriff or whatever and saying, we want to file 4 charges of child abuse. And you need to tell all these people, listen, even if you file psychological child abuse, it still has to be investigated. So please file it. They'll investigate it and either find me not guilty or guilty or whatever, or find them guilty or not guilty. But I'm asking you to help me protect my children. You're
Well,
not going to find too many parents that will say, I don't really care about your children.
right, well said.
Unless, hold it, unless your children are like my best friend and his family, because then you may be like, those kids are a little weird. But most parents, most family members, most people will be like, I do want to help your children. So please get them behind you. Get them where they will help you out, help you file charges, because they don't want to see anything happen bad to your children as well.
Definitely. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, with this letter that I'm sending off to the APA, if you would like to read it, it should be up by the middle of next week. I'm going to post it all around the Facebook sites of parental alienation, stuff like that. And if you would like to send a copy to all the people or all the emails that I have for all these individuals on the board and stuff like that, by all means, you can go to one of my websites. I'm going to say, I don't know which one. I'm going to say Child Abusers Wear Black Robes. Actually, no, I'm going to use parental alienation. No, American Psychological ASS.com. That's American Psychological ASS.com. You will be able to go put on the top of the page and send out an email. I would like to know your response on Mr. Gottfried's letters that he has sent you, because they can't. It's literally, unless they're just going to say that letter we sent to Donald Trump is a bunch of freaking lies. They can't say that I'm lying about what they've done, because they've done the same exact thing that they accused President Trump of the kids at the border. So, if they want to know their response, you can go to that website. That's AmericanPsychologicalASS.com, and I will have a link up there. I would like the response of Mr. Gottfried's emails and what you have to say.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
No, thank you. I appreciate everything that you're doing. The more awareness we get out about this corruption within the American Psychological Association and the corrupt judges, the more power we're going to have.
Oh, I appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you.
You're awesome. Thank you much.
Well, don't jump off. Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these family courtrooms that in turn perpetuate parental alienation. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie, author of Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth. Please join us again in the future with Ken and other guests. Thank you so much again and again.
Thank you. I appreciate the time. I always love this podcast.
Thank you.